What's up, Tamers? It's Gino here, and welcome to the Monday Mulligan. This is basically what Fun Deck Friday has become. I really liked the sound of Fun Deck Friday, but that happens to be the day that we drop podcast. So we need to find a new day, new time slot. So Mondays it is. This is for your fun tier decks, your rogue tier decks. Sometimes they can sneak you some wins. I did win locals with this deck. So yeah, let's just hop into it. This is my Sakuyamon deck profile. So first and foremost, the eggs, of course. We're running 4 of the Digimon until we get 2.5 and we get all the new Sakuyamon stuff, which you will certainly be sick of seeing. This is what we're running. So this is Digimon Inherit, and you play an option that costs 2 or more, draw a card. This is really great for consistency, because there are situations where you'll promote your rookie and then play a training, so you get to search 2, and then you'll get to draw 1 as well. So really nice consistency card. It's Digimon in name, which doesn't actually matter for this version of the deck, but it does if you run other Renamons. So first of our Renamons, of course, is the newest Renamon, the BT17 Searcher Renamon. This one on play, dig top 3, and this is the best Searcher Renamon has because it lets you grab basically anything. You get 1 Renamon in name line, so you know the QB, the Tau, the Sakuya, and then you also get a Rika or an option. So those are great. So if you already have the Rika, you grab an option, or if you didn't search one, right? Really great searcher. Inheritable is when you use an option card with a cost of 2 or more, give sec -1 to one of your opponent's Digimon. I really don't like that inherit, and we're going to see it a couple times, unfortunately, in this deck. I much prefer the neg 2k DP or the gain of memory, which we will also see. But this is just an excellent searcher. Awesome art as well. So yeah, that's our main searcher, and right now it's the best searcher we have for a Sakuyamon deck. Next Renamon we're looking at is the EX2 one. This is also a searcher. Flip top 4, you get one of the line, so QB Tau Sakuya, and a Rika. So this one misses the option cards, whereas this one sort of lets you grab either, but this one also does dig 1 deeper, and it has a much better inherit, which is when you use an option card that costs 2 or more, gain of memory. So if you have this on top of the Digimon, whenever you play your option cards, you're drawing 1 and gaining 1, which is really strong. Good card, good inherit. This is the one I usually want in the back, but there are times when you will use it for searching. There are a lot of consistency pieces in this deck though, so you might not even need it for the search. And then finally, last Renamon we're running 2 copies of the all-new EX8 Renamon X Antibody. On play, when Evo, return an option card with plugin in its name from your trash to the hand. This is a really strong effect for this deck. You kind of want to hang on to this card and not Evo in the back like you would normally do in an X Antibody deck, where you would, Evo just to get that extra draw. You really want to kind of avoid doing that because this is really great late game once you've used some of your options and you need them back, namely the pause plugin, which we'll talk all about the options at the end of the deck profile. But Renamon X, really good. Inherit negs 2k when you use an option that costs 2 or more. So it is good to have in a big stack if you end up building that big stack. Okay, that's it for the rookies. We're only running 10. Like I said, there's a lot of consistency in this deck, a lot of search, so you should be okay with 10. For the champions, we're running 3 copies of Wizardmon. No, this is not a QBmon or a Yokomon, but Wizardmon. And the reason why is the inherit. The inherit basically says when this Digimon with the data or Wachoni trait would leave the battle area by an opponent's effect, by trashing your top security, it doesn't leave. So the Renamon line is all data. So with the exception of 1 level 7 boss monster, which you probably know what it is, this basically gives you protection on your Sakuyamons. And if you have the BT17 Sakuyamon, that makes your Sakuyamon immune to everything if you played an option that turn. You can protect yourself by trashing a security from deletion. You have barrier on face, and if you used an option card, you're immune to being returned to hand or deck. So it's basically, you can get a really sticky Sakuyamon with this Wizardmon inherit. And the one Digivolving effect does come up every now and again. When you, on Evo, by trashing your top security, draw 1, gain 1. 90% of the time you're using this in the back, but there are situations where you may need just that extra memory to keep turn and pop off with a combo. So sometimes this Wizardmon is the move and using that effect. Okay, now we'll get into QBmons. We're running 2 copies of the BT17 QBmon. This one is pretty standard for your champion lineups these days. If you don't have a Rika, you may play a Rika. We'll be getting one that will certainly replace this one, because that one basically says if you have one or less tamers, play a Rika. So, and the Inherit is the same as this one, where it gives security attack -1 when you use an option card that costs 2 or more. So it's there. This is kind of what we got for now. It's fine. It's fine. Then the last champion we're running, and the last Cubimon, is the old EX2 Cubimon. This one digs plugins, which sometimes is nice. It sucks that you bottom deck everything that's not a plugin. But sometimes there are situations where you do just need to dig for that plugin. And it's not bad to have. The real benefit of this card, though, is the Inherit, which is, again, just like the Renamon X. When you use an option card that costs 2 or more, one of your opponent's Digimon gets an egg 2k. So if you have them both in stack, that's an extra 4k, and there's a Taomon that also does that, so we'll get an extra 6k. All right, for the Taomons, we are running, I'm actually just gonna slide these guys up real quick to give us enough space on the board. For level 5s, we're running 3 copies of the BT17 Taomon. This Taomon is nuts. Very, very good. Basically lets you, if you evo into this Taomon and you have the right cards in your hand, you get to go into Sakuyamon for free. And it also has Barrier on face. But the when Digivolving effect says you may use an option card that has plugin in its name or is yellow from your hand with the cost reduced by 2. So what that means is this, you play your plugin, right, for 2 less. Or you can play a Scramble for free. You can play a Training for free. You can play a Memory Boost for 1. Really strong card. Because Scrambles are so strong, and they only cost 2, Scramble is basically like your second Digivolution plugin. You just don't get the extra card draw. So between Scrambles and Digivolution plugin S, it's very easy to just Evo Taomon and go straight into Sakuyamon and just combo off. So a lot of the times you don't push out a Raising until you have the level 4, and then you go into Taomon and you pop off. Really good card. Next and last Taomon we're running is the old EX2 Taomon. Again, he's okay. He plays a Rika for you for free, no restriction, which is nice. So if you didn't get a chance to play one earlier, you get to play one for free off at the Taomon. Good card. Inherit is the same as the old Cubimon and the Rena X, where you get to neg 2k on something when you use an option. So that's an extra 6k you get to neg on something if you have all of them in the stack. And they do add up. And the fact that you can spread them around means you can pop a lot of little bodies as well if you would like. That's it for the Taomons. Let's move on to our ultimates. Naturally, they're all going to be Sakuyamon in name. And here's our first one. This is the best Sakuyamon for sure. There are situations where you want to use the other one, but this one is just so good, and the art is chef's kiss. It has Barrier on face, which is great. That's already one type of protection. And then on Evo, one of your opponent's Digimon gets -6k for the turn, and from your hand without paying the cost, you get to use a 5 cost or lower option that has plugin in its name or is yellow. So that's a Scramble, that's a boost or a Training, or it's one of the many plugins that we run. Generally, you want to run Pause plugin. We'll talk all about the plugins later, but that's going to be boom, instant neg 12, possibly 14, 16, 18, depending on your stack, right? Or a lot of the times you have multiple stacks in play and you get to activate all of those inherits. It's very strong. Really cool card, great card. And then your turn, once per turn, when you use an option card that costs 2 or more, until the end of your opponent's turn, their effects can't return this Digimon to hand or deck. So like I was saying before, if you have the Wizardmon in stack, you have protection against everything, at least once, right? Because the Wizardmon is once per turn. Barrier, however, is not, and Sakuyamon's effect just lasts for the turn, and you're going to be playing option cards every single turn until you win. So, really great card. Love this Sakuyamon. Yeah, enough said, right? It also evos on a maid mode for 1. So, we do run a maid mode in here. Next, we're running just 1 copy of the old EX2 Sakuyamon. She's kind of a late game finisher. She's a surprise unsuspend. She does on Evo unsuspend 1 Digimon, and for each tamer you have in play, return a plugin from trash to hand. This is really nice late game when you have a couple Rikas out and you really just want to get your plugins back, or you need a quick unsuspend. She also has a your turn that is not a once per turn, that when you use an option card that costs 2 or more, neg 3k on something. That's really strong. Like, there are turns where you can play many plugins in a turn and just wipe out a whole board. Real quick, also, I forgot to mention this when we talked about the BT17 Talmon. Not only is his Win Evo effect really good, but his Inherit is broken. If this Digimon has Sakuyamon in its name, when attacking, you get to use a plugin or option that costs 2 or less for free without paying the cost. So you don't even need Rika to do a lot of your pop-off plays anymore. But it is very nice to have, and you do kind of want the Tamer on board so you can ignore the colors of plugins, but yeah, really good. Really good. Next Sakuyamon we're running, just one copy of Maid Mode. Sakuyamon Maid Mode. On Evo, you get to play a plugin or a 5 cost or less option that's yellow. And this one is without meeting color requirements. So basically, you can use your green plugin even if you don't have a Tamer, for example. So anyway, after you use that option card, then it goes on top of security. So really nice. It whips on any of the delay options, so you don't want to use it off of that. But you do get to basically play an option, usually pause plugin, put that into security, and now that's another negative 6k threat. Plus it comes back to your hand, so really strong with the pause plugin. And then when attacking, this Digimon may digivolve into a Sakuyamon in your hand for a cost of 1, ignoring requirements. So it just lets you loop and cycle. There are situations when you build a really big Sakuya stack because of this. And, you know, sometimes it's worth it. More play lines are always better, right? And then final Sakuyamon of the deck, we're running 2 copies of Sakuyamon X Antibody. This card is actually pretty crazy, and it takes people by surprise a lot, because it does a lot. First of all, it can go on any Sakuyamon in name without X Antibody, so it can even go on your Maid Mode for 1. Which is really good. And then on Evo, if you have Sakuya or X Antibody in this Digimon's Digivolution cards, which you almost always want to have when you're playing this deck, because after all, you want to go into this Sakuyamon. This Sakuyamon helps you close the game though. So when you Evo, if you have the Sakuyamon in source, you get to play out an Uka no Mitama token, which is a yellow 9k Digimon with Rush. And 9k is such a weird number that it basically only dies in security to boss monsters. So you're often beating over almost every level 5 in the game and anything else. It also has no level, so it avoids level-based removal. It's a really good token to have. But the once per turn effect is really what brings this card to the next level. When any of your Digimon attack, you get to play a single color option card that costs 5 or less from your hand without paying the cost. And if you did so, one of your Digimon unsuspends. What this means is that you can just pop the hell off and go for OTK turns, where you can swing a Sakuyamon, activate this effect to give it Sec +1 with the offense plugin, unsuspend it, and boom, that's 4 checks on your barrier Sakuyamon. So you're gonna rip through security. And you can also do it with the Mitama, because it's just considered a Digimon. So when your token attacks, play the option, do something, unsuspend the token. It's really strong, really cool. I wish this card also had barrier on face, or maybe if we had like a barrier Inherit, I feel like this card would be even stronger that way. I mean, I know there are ways to get barrier Inherit, but you know, just a thought. It's kind of risky swinging in only at 12k, because you're never going to be more than 12. Not with this card anyway. The final Digimon of the deck is, of course, Ruin Mode. Run copy of Ruin Mode. If you don't have a Ruin Mode or it's too pricey, these jank decks are usually on the cheaper side. I mean, we are running waifus, so maybe a little bit higher. But Ruin Mode, of course, you all know what that does. You Evo, you blanket -5, and then you swing, you die, you recover 1, -5 again. It's a really good defensive card. You often have a Sakuyamon in play, so when you have this card, it's just a way for you to stall out a game or remove a threat. Because if you can't neg it to death, then at least you can kill it when you swing. So, Ruin Mode, good card, obviously. You know that. I know that. Everyone knows that. Alright, moving on to the Tamers. Now, real quick, before we do move on to Tamers, I do want to note that if you don't have Ruin Mode or you don't like Ruin Mode in this build, you could run the Shine Greymon Burst Mode Ace. That's a good card. Or you can even run a Sakuya Maid Mode Ace. Both good cards. I decided for no aces in this build, and it worked out for me. So, next, okay, so Tamers, for real this time. We're running 3 copies of EX2 Rika. honestly, let's just put out all the tamers. So running 1 copy of the 3-cost Rika. This was not enough Rikas, I'll be completely honest with you. I'm probably going to cut some card in this deck to get this Rika back up to 4, at least till we get the good Rika in 2.0. Rika isn't so good for her effect. I mean, it is useful, don't get me wrong, as much as it is just having a tamer so you can use your Digivolution plugin option without meeting the color requirements. That's what you need the tamer for, really. But Rika, really great combo piece. This is what lets you pop off and do really stupid stuff. When you swing with one of your line, so Rena Cubitao, Sakuya, you get to just activate one of your option cards with plugin in its name from your hand without paying the cost. So that means you turn your pause plugin into a free option card, and then you get all of your inherited effects for doing so. Really strong card. She's also a memory setter. And then this Rika, I do like her at 1. I would not cut this Rika because there are times when you just need that come from behind Sakuyamon to boom, I'm gonna quick neg 12 to 16 on something. Because basically it lets you Evo into a Sakuyamon for 4, lets you warp in. It also gives you an extra memory if your opponent has Digimon in play. So you warp into a Sakuyamon from a Renamon by placing the QB and the Tau from trash underneath. And then you get to return an option card, and then your Sakuyamon's on Evo effect will go off and let you play the option card that you returned. So basically, in a perfect world, you get to put the Taumon and the Cubimon under, Evo into this Sakuyamon, and then play pause plugin. And now you're doing negative 6k from Sakuyamon's Evo effect, negative 6k from the pause plugin, and then an extra 2k twice, basically. Plus maybe a memory recovery, because it does cost 4 to do, which is kind of sucky, considering Takato gets to do it end of his turn for free. But whatever. We're not pro tag, so that's what we live with. All right, Tamer's out of the way. I'm actually just going to move Rika down here. I realize she's going to kind of fall off the camera, but that's okay. Let's talk about the options, because there's a lot of them. This deck thrives on option cards and consistency, so let's talk about the consistency pieces first. We're running 3 copies of Physical Training. This is your 2-cost search a thing. Already talked about it before, but you can play this for free a lot of the time off of either the Taumon when Evo or the Inherit effect, or just off of one of your Sakuyamons. If you have no other option to play, especially if the opponent's board is clear, you can just do this, get consistency, get search, just set yourself up for their crackback, right? So really good card, and obviously you use it like a training card, flip 2, grab a yellow card, Evo for 2 less later, right? It's a good card. You know this. I know this. Let's move on to the next good card, Yellow Scramble. We're running 3 Yellow Scrambles in this deck. I've seen lists go up to 4 on this card, honestly, because it basically lets you Evo for free. Because again, Taumon, excuse me, Taumon is playing option cards for 2 less. So you just Evo Evo, play Yellow Scramble, then get to go into Sakuyamon for free. Plus, you're set up for the crackback in case they remove your board later, or if you need to get a piece back from trash. Ruin Mode, a great option to grab back from trash with Scramble. Not to mention, you can also use Ruin Mode with Scramble. So you can Evo into this Sakuyamon, and then use Scramble and Evo for 3 less into Ruin Mode. So it's a 4-cost Evo instead of a 5. Or for 3 less, right? So you play it for free. This is a 2-cost Evo. Good card, man, especially in this deck where you're playing it for free. Honestly, you're usually playing it for -1 because you're going to gain a memory if you're lucky. So, really good card in this deck. Really good card. I'm sorry about the glare. Scramble, right? Okay, we all know what Scramble is. Last consistency piece, we're running 2 boosts. 2 yellow memory boosts. Dig 4, grab a yellow, right? Just a consistency piece. Again, play it off a Sakuyamon or a Taumon, or the Taumon Inherit. It reduces it by 2, so it's a 1-cost Dig 4, which is very nice. Just a good card. You need consistency because we're only running 10 rookies, so it makes sense to have 2 extra consistency pieces, right? And finally, the moment you've all been waiting for, Rika fans will know, what the hell do I run for plugins? Here's what we're running. We're running 3 copies of the pause plugin. It's hard to say what the best plugin is, but I think it's this one. Because A, it's already yellow, so you're already going to meet the color requirements. You don't need to find a Rika to use this card. which is good. But on Evo, one of your opponent's Digimon gets negative 6k, and it turns off when Digivolving effects. So this just removes Burst or Blast Evo. Like, oh, you're gonna Blast Evo me? No, you're not. I don't care. You can Blast Evo if you want, but you're not gonna do anything with it, which is very strong. It basically gives you a way to be offensive and also defensive because it does neg 6k, and out of security it neg 6k and comes back to hand. So if you have ways to put it back into security, like with Sakuyamon Maid Mode, just really strong way to crack back. You always want to see this card. You always want to be using this card. That's why it's at 3. Then finally, we're running, I say finally, but there's one more card after this. Running 3 copies of Digivolution Plug-in S. This is Sakuyamon's Scramble, basically. You draw one, and then one of your Digimon might Evo for 3 into a Digimon that costs 3 or less without paying the cost. Really good. The only problem with this card is that it's green, and so you need to find your tamer. Like I said, that's why I really want to go up on Rika's and go back to 5. I was running 5 originally in this build, so I have to figure out what I want to cut. But yeah, basically draw one, then Evo. Strong card. Really strong card. Security effect also is a search, which is nice. So you flip 3 and add a Digimon to hand, and then this comes back to hand. So really nice. Good card. Does good things. And the final card, I mentioned it briefly before. This is your win button card. This is your surprise. I'm going to do 4 to 5 to 6 checks this turn. Offense plugin. Give one of your Digimon Sec +1. So the play is to go into a Sakuyamon X, play down your token, and then you're going to swing with something, preferably something with barrier or some sort of protection or that you know isn't going to die in security. And then you're going to use Sakuyamon X's all turns effects to give it Sec +1, unsuspend, and then swing for 2 more checks. Like I said, the token is not a bad card to give Sec +1 to because it's only dying to Megas in security. Megas and up, basically. 9k is just that weird number that gets over basically everything in the deck but the 6s. So, not a bad card to give Sec +1 to. And security effect, reveal top 3, add a tamer card among them to your hand, place the remaining cards at the bottom of your deck in any order, then add this card to hand. So yeah, this is the deck profile. Really fun. I love this deck. It is actually one of the first decks I ever built because I am a Renamon fan, and no, that doesn't mean anything. So yeah, this is the profile. I'm excited to get the new pieces in 2.5 and see what we can change about it in a way that isn't just Tau Loop, because that deck needs to go out behind the barn, if you know what I mean. So yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know what you would change in this deck and how you like to run the Sakuyamon deck, and I will see you guys all on the next one. Peace out.